Good afternoon and welcome to another Cat Chat Live webinar. My name is Nancy Stevens and I serve as a communications manager in the Office for Student Success. We're excited to have you here with us today, and assuming that if you're tuning in, you have a graduate in the class of 2025. We're excited to celebrate them and all of their accomplishments. And so as we get things underway, wanted to share a couple of housekeeping announcements with you. We're using Zoom's webinar format, so the best way to ask your questions as we go through today's webinar is to use that Q&A feature. We'll be monitoring that and taking your questions towards the end. I'll also be dropping links that you may need into the chat, but again, that Q&A feature is going to be the best way to share your questions with us. We'll take as many as we can in the allotted time. I assume that we'll have more than enough time for questions. If you're not able to tune in the entire time today, we will be recording the webinar and we'll share it with all of our registrants in the next few days. Of course, you may think of questions after the fact, and we'll leave contact information for you to reach out to our parent and family team and get you the information you're seeking. And then we'll wrap up by offering a survey to get your feedback on today's webinar, and I appreciate you taking a couple minutes to give us some feedback. I also want to do a quick plug for next week's webinar. Again, may not apply to folks in this group if they don't have a student continuing on at UK next year, but we will be chatting on Wednesday the 23rd with our colleagues in the Office of Education Abroad and Exchanges, and excited to talk about demystifying the study abroad experience. So if you're interested, the link to that is in the Cat Chat family community, and hope you'll make plans to join us. All right, so that's our housekeeping. So without further ado, I want to turn things over to Abby Franklin and Tyler Chapman in our Office for University Events. They're going to walk you through everything that you need to know. Abby's a full-time staff member in the Office for University Events, and Tyler is the graduate assistant working specifically with commencement and is a soon-to-be graduate in the class of 2025 himself. So thanks so much for joining us today, Abby and Tyler, and look forward to all of the good information you're going to share with us.
Hello, everyone. Like Nancy said, my name is Abby Franklin. I am the Associate Director for University Events, and I serve as the Commencement Chair for the university. So I oversee the Commencement Committee, the committee of faculty, staff, and students that give feedback and input into the decisions that are made in order to give graduates this experience for their commencement day. So I'm looking forward to talking with you all today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Chapman. As Nancy said, I am the graduate assistant for commencement. So I work for Abby, with Abby, and together, along with the commencement committee, we host commencement for all of our graduates. And also, as Nancy mentioned, I am a graduate student as well. So I'm pursuing my master's in public administration at the Martin School here at UK. And I've had the pleasure of serving as the commencement GA2. And this is my last Cat Chat and my last commencement, and the very last one I'll get to participate in, which is exciting. And today we'll talk a little bit about the schedule of ceremonies. So we'll run through that. So if you know what college your graduate is participating in, we'll have questions. Again, we'll be able to help answer questions at the end around the schedule if there are any questions. Cap and gown information, we'll talk a little bit about that. Registration, the registration period is still open through the end of the week. So we'll talk a little bit about that for your students. Then we'll give some day of information. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with FAQs, and then we'll have some time for questions.
So first, we'll start with the schedule of ceremonies. With the screen shown at this time, there are 4 ceremonies for the main commencement ceremonies. 3 that take place on Friday, May 9th, and then one takes place on Saturday, May 10th. Depending on which college your graduate is receiving a degree from will depend on which ceremony they're participating in. So we've labeled these as far as which colleges are at which times. There's a 9 a.m., a 2 p.m., and a 6 p.m. ceremony on Friday, and Saturday at 9 a.m. Is that fourth ceremony. If your graduate perhaps has dual degrees and they're in multiple colleges, they are able to choose which ceremony they'd want to walk with. If they want to walk with both ceremonies, they are absolutely welcome to do that as well. We can help coordinate that, but your graduate will walk with their college, and at Central Bank Center, Rep Arena at Central Bank Center will be seated with their colleges based on with their registration. We'll get them seated on the floor at Rep Arena with their colleges, and they'll be sitting with their other classmates at that time at the floor of Rep Arena. So this covers the schedule of ceremonies and the colleges that are within each one of those.
And just one other thing to note around this is not necessarily the order that the colleges will walk. That schedule won't be determined until much later. So if you have questions about who's going first, we want to make sure we get well through the registration period before that schedule is made. So just be on the lookout for that. So cap and gown. At this point, I think most of our graduates have received their cap and gown, either when they were at Grad Salute a few weeks ago in March, or if they've stopped by the bookstore or placed their order online. Undergraduate master students can still purchase their cap and gown in person at the UK bookstore. They just go in, they keep that open all the way through commencement week. So if they lose a tassel or something happens, they can always stop by. The doctoral regalia deadline has passed in most cases. So if there are any questions about doctoral graduates who need regalia, have them reach out to the bookstore. Usually they have some regalia that they can rent, but that inventory is somewhat limited, so they need to act pretty quickly. So some day of information that you'll need to know. We will send this out to our graduates in the next several days. We'll send them all the day of information that they need to know. So if you, we'll give them a very detailed email about what this information is, but just some high level here. Graduates and their guests can park in the High Street lot across from Rep Arena at Central Bank Center. So of course you see the blue on the map here. The yellow is the parking lot. There will also be street parking around if you can find it, if you're staying in hotels, all kinds of spots. So this the parking is free here. First come, first serve. So kind of keep that in mind. We'll talk a little bit about some of the accommodation pieces shortly, but I do want to mention that if it is easier for, if you have an elderly family member or something that needs to be dropped off, I recommend dropping them close to the doors and then swinging around and parking so they don't have to walk all the way across. And then unique to our May ceremonies, we have shuttle services that will run from the Cornerstone Garage here on campus. And they will take family members to Rep Arena. So this is a covered parking structure. It'll be open throughout the whole day. So our ask is that if you find it more convenient to shuttle, feel free to park at Cornerstone Garage, and we'll have signs out there for where the shuttle will be, and the shuttle will be running continuously. I think we'll have like 4 shuttles running at one time. So if you don't see it right when you get out there, be patient, they'll be on their way. But we want to make it a little bit easier for you to get to where you need to be.
One additional reminder with the parking also comes a lot of heavy traffic in downtown Lexington that day. So be prepared for that. Just give yourself plenty of time to navigate to these parking lots and to where you're going and familiarize yourself with that area. We do have a really good relationship and have partnered with the Lexington Police Department that are going to assist us with traffic control and helping to reduce congestion as much as possible. But just make sure that you're prepared to get there early and to navigate through some heavy downtown traffic, especially on that Friday when normal businesses are in operation in downtown. So we just want to be mindful about that and make sure that you're prepared to navigate through. So moving on to the entrances for the event. So your graduates will go through the West High Street entrance at Rupp Arena. So there will be signage out front as to the specific entrance that they should use in order to go to where we are directing them to check in and make sure that they are checked in the right place to registration. And then all family and guests can enter also on West High Street, but there is a main entrance there that you'll see signage for. It's through the pedestrian bridge. It's through the main entrance there. There'll be signage. They can also enter from the bridge attached to the Hyatt or from the Main Street or Vine Street side as well. There will be entrances on those 3 points throughout Rupp Arena. So your graduates will need to come from High Street, but as an attendee, families and guests, they can enter through either side of the Rupp Arena, Main Street or High Street. So.
A little bit more day of information. So as Abby mentioned, graduates are going to enter on High Street. There will be a clearly marked entrance for them with signage. They're going to check in at Club B. If you do not know where Club B is, or if your graduate does not know where Club B is, not to worry, we will point them in the right direction. So really, we just ask, show up on time and we'll take care of the rest for you. Graduates will be seated with their college, so there will be flags on the floor where their college is designated. But again, we'll help them with the help of our faculty marshals from each college. We'll help graduates get seated. They don't process in. If you've attended a commencement ceremony in the last few years, you know that we no longer process in, but they'll be able to get in and find their college. So if they're running a little behind, no worries, they won't miss the processional, but we will start at 9 o'clock or whatever hour that each ceremony begins. With that, each of these ceremonies, we don't expect them to last any longer than 2.5 hours. That may seem like a long time, but once you're in the moment and getting through the ceremony, it quite frankly flies by. We do 3 of these a day in some cases, so it's going. There will be strobe lighting used during the UK fight song, so we just want folks to be aware who may have a sensory issue related to lights. Just be aware of when that is, and we'll announce when that's going to begin as well. In terms of accessible seating, seating is first come, first serve. All seating in Rupp Arena is that way, much like we have seen in the past at commencement. Same with the ADA accessible seatings. So if you have, usually what we ask families who have this question is, if you have a big group and maybe grandma needs a spot for her wheelchair, there are some like side-by-side seats in those areas, but we try to reserve as many or keep those seats open for as many folks who need them as possible. So there will be seating in front of each of those sections along the concourse. The Rupp Arena staff will be able to help get you pointed in the right direction. But if you have a big group, let's just be mindful of others and try to make sure that we share the seating if they need it. And then after graduates cross the stage, keep in mind that they will not return back to their seats. In Club C, graduates and their families and guests are invited to the grad gathering hosted by the Alumni Association. And we'll have signage pointing graduates where to go after they exit the stage. They'll get their headshot and then they'll head back to Club C, or they can exit to meet you if you have other plans. But we encourage you to go. It's kind of a nice little wrap up. You get your alumni pin. You see representatives from all of the colleges. So it's a pretty special event, and alumni loves to have the graduates there and host it for them.
Just a little bit additional information about that grad gathering that Tyler had mentioned. It is in Club C, which is going to take place on the Main Street side of Rupp Arena on that first floor level. So if you're navigating towards that, you would just come down the stairs or down the escalators, and it's on the first level on the Main Street side. It's a really great spot to meet back up with your graduate once they've crossed the stage. Lots of refreshments and some goodies for the graduate. Also taking place there is a lot of photo opportunities. So they'll bring in some balloons and have some cool backdrops to look at. It's also a really good opportunity if you've never been in a club at Rupp Arena to see some of those behind the scenes kind of exclusive experiences from a graduate, and also with the family seeing those club spaces. So a good opportunity there. But also a really great spot to meet back up with your graduate before your next activity at the conclusion of the ceremonies. That will be ongoing, so it'll happen throughout the day. And as you know, there'll be a lot of people filtering through, so just be patient in navigating towards there. And yeah, thanks to the Alumni Association for hosting that great event every graduation. So.
Before we move on to the next slide, there is information listed on the commencement website's homepage about grad gathering, a flyer that they host. So feel free to go to commencement.uky.edu. We'll redirect you back there again towards the end of this presentation. But there is information about grad gathering there too, if you didn't have the opportunity to write it down. All right, my favorite piece, frequently asked questions, because I get so many questions every single commencement cycle, and we want to make sure that we give you clear, concise information for family members and graduates so that you have all the information that you need getting up to commencement. So let's walk through each of these. Do guests need tickets? No. We get this question a lot. It's general admission. Seating is first come, first serve, as we mentioned, but we use the same processes at like a basketball game minus the tickets. So go through, make sure that we'll open those doors an hour prior to the ceremony. So if your ceremony is at 9 a.m., we'll open them at 8. If your ceremony is at 2, we open at 1. And that'll give you plenty of time to get through. There is a bag policy. We follow Rupp Arena standards. So if you have been to a UK basketball game, or if you have been to an arena or any sort of other venue with security protocols, there's generally a bag policy. So our advice to you is, if you can avoid bringing something, do that. It'll just make the line move a lot faster. And we have really great staff at Rupp Arena, but sometimes these folks will bring things in that they weren't aware that they couldn't, and then that holds up the line. So sometimes that's what that's about. But there is a bag policy. If you do need to bring a bag, just be aware of what those standards are. And if you want more information about that, I recommend going to Rupp Arena's website. We have a link on our FAQ page with their policy. If you cannot make it to commencement, or if you have family members that are out of town that still want to participate and celebrate your graduate, there will be a live stream of the ceremony, and we will host that on the commencement homepage as well. And in fact, these are all hosted through YouTube. So if you have a family member that just misses the day or can't make it for whatever reason, we can always go back and watch, which is really awesome, because life happens and sometimes we can't make certain events, and so we want to make sure we have that available to you. And I do have the link on our FAQ page as well to the YouTube website. So we know in May that it rains sometimes. It's definitely not going to rain, knock on wood, this year. But in the event that it does, yes, you may bring an umbrella. Keep in mind that if you bring an umbrella, you do have to carry the umbrella with you and keep it with you. There's not a spot to leave them. So just keep an eye out for the weather and prepare. If you need to bring that, that's totally fine. We mentioned this before, but graduates will be seated and walk across the stage with their respective college. Though that order that the colleges walk has not been determined. However, the order within each college is determined, and we do this the same every year. Doctoral students or graduates will go first, and then graduate, aka master's graduates, will go next, and then undergraduate students will follow the master's students. So if you have a doctoral student, they will be hooded on stage. If you're a master's student like me, you have a hood, but you're not hooded unless you have a terminal degree. So just keep that in mind. And lastly, what accommodations will be available? So there will be closed captioning on the screen, and we'll also have ASL interpreters that will be on the screen as well. So if you have folks that have those needs, those will be there. I have some more information on the website about other accommodations like renting wheelchairs or something if you have a family member that doesn't have one, but needs to use one just for a short period. There's plenty of local companies that rent mobility devices. So if you have that need, just search online some options that are around and find those accommodations. If you need help finding seating or anything like that, there is seating. I even had an email today. Someone reached out about wanting to find floor level or minimal stair usage you'll enter on the concourse, and there's plenty of seating that have little to no access to stairs. So, but again, ask your rep arena staff once you get in. If you have any questions, there'll be plenty of folks around to help you. And for all other questions, oh, go ahead, Abby.
Go ahead. I was just going to add a couple things that I thought of while we were talking here. In addition to the live stream link that'll be placed on our website the day of, we will also put the commencement program on the website at the same time. So you'll get to see the full program prior to the ceremonies. In that program, you'll notice the floor plans for where each college will be seated on the floor. So you're welcome to take a look at that once we publish that, probably the Thursday afternoon before the Friday ceremony start, and all of the layouts will be included in that program. You'll get to see which colleges are seated where in the arena. So when you're coming in, you can see, where you want to sit based on where those colleges are seated on the floor, if that's important to you as far as being seated on the same side as your student in their college. So that program will be digital and you'll get to scroll through it and everything. The other thing I wanted to mention too is, I know we didn't cover arrival times for the ceremony structure, but for the 9 a.m. ceremony start times, the doors will open for guests to start arriving 1 hour prior to the ceremony start time. So the doors will open at 8 a.m. for the 9 a.m. ceremony, 1 p.m. the doors will open for the 2 p.m. ceremony, and 5 p.m. the doors will open for the 6 p.m. ceremony. So, and that's when your graduate should also arrive, is 1 hour prior to that start time. And as a family and attendee, you'll be able to start entering the arena at that point too. So I don't think I mentioned that before in the ceremony schedule, but it's probably important information for you to arrive and know what time those doors open so you can start going through security and securing your seat in the arena. So those are just a couple of things I thought of. The other thing I also wanted to mention, I know this is such an exciting time of year and the graduates are really excited. And I know a lot of your graduates are starting to take their senior photos around campus, and we're we're starting to see lines form at some of those monumental, iconic places on campus. The big UK concrete statue out in front of the Gatton Student Center, Bowman at Wildcat Alumni Plaza, the Wildcat statue there. Memorial Hall is also a really popular one. So it's very exciting to see graduates out there taking photos and being excited in their cap and gowns already. And we're excited for them. As you speak with them around these times, also just remind them, confetti and champagne, just to make sure to clean up after themselves, to make sure that we're not leaving things behind, because as those lines form and students are coming through, they're all having their experience and photographing those moments to be able to memorialize forever. So yeah, just a reminder to keep things tidy and clean as they're leaving those iconic places around campus too. So with that, I'm opening up to other questions. I know Tyler mentioned a lot of those frequently asked questions, but I'm sure you will have plenty of other questions, and we're happy to answer those at this time if you have any.
Yeah, so one question that hasn't come up, but I know that it will. Speaking of photos, can you talk a little bit more about the photos that will be taken by the professional photographers at the ceremony and how students access those after the fact? And I know sometimes families will say, I know the photo was taken, but how do I get to it?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So we work with a company called ProPix. They are a fantastic partner with UK. They have done our photos for the last several commencement ceremonies, and they do a fantastic job. With that, there are a couple ways that graduates can get their photos. ProPix prides itself on getting photos to graduates within 48 hours. Usually I feel like it's less than 24 hours by the time they get their photos. But ProPix will be around. I think they'll have some signage up too for our candidates or our graduates to scan a QR code, upload their information. They'll get their photos almost right away without having to wait. And with that, if for whatever reason, when graduates check in, they're actually going to get a card that we ask them to hang on to. On the back of that, we'll also have that QR code. So every single graduate will have the chance to scan that QR code before they cross the stage. And then we'll take the card from them. So, but no worries if they don't scan the card or they forget something. Graduates can actually go to universityofkentuckyphotos.com, and it will pull up all of the ceremony. They just type in their first and last name, what ceremony they participated in, and they can find photos there as well.
There are 3 locations where there will be formal images taken too. So one is right before they cross the stage. They'll be stopped before they do cross and have like the arena backdrop. The second location will be on stage next to with the president and their dean in the background of the photo, posing with their diploma cover, which you see in this the screen that Nancy has up right now with the diploma cover. And then the third one is once they exit the stage in that back hallway, we'll have kind of like a more formal headshot set up where they'll take a headshot on their way out too. So those are the 3 locations where they'll actually get a formal photo of that day that ProPix will have on their photo link for the graduate to access and purchase additional shots.
All right, great. That's helpful. Also along the lines of photographs, we've got a question in the Q&A. Are we able to bring a camera as long as it fits inside the clear bag? And I did put the link in the chat to the Rupp Arena policies, but didn't know if you had any other information about that.
Yes, cameras are allowed. Avoid bringing your bags that are not permitted for the event, but cameras will be permitted, yes.
You also cannot bring the stands for them. So
tripods, yes.
Yeah, the tripod. So just keep that in mind. A standard digital camera or something, totally fine.
All right, and we talked about how doors to Rupp Arena will open 1 hour prior to each ceremony, but I have a question that came in. What time does the parking lot open each morning?
I'm not sure the actual open time. It would be open by 7 a.m. when our volunteers begin arriving. So 7 a.m. I'm going to say, but I don't have a firm answer on that, but we can provide one on the FAQ page.
Sounds
Yeah,
good. Go ahead, Tyler.
we do have an ask to. So a lot of folks will keep their parking lot or keep their spot in the parking lot, go have lunch, all of that. But just also we ask that you be mindful of how much time you take up in the parking lot after the ceremony. We'll have a lunch break and then graduates will start to come in probably about 12:30, 12:30, 1. So as early as you're planning on getting there, that's probably as early as the next ceremony will want to arrive as well. So we just ask be mindful of folks who are going to come after you, just as we'll ask those who are before you to be mindful as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, Tyler. I was going to mention that as well, because I do think, folks think, oh, well, I'll leave our car here and we'll go walk to somewhere and grab a meal and all that. But then that keeps somebody coming to the next ceremony from maybe having a spot to park. So, all right. So our next question, are the students seated alphabetically?
No, the students are not seated alphabetically. They're seated within, they'll have a block for their college. And then within that block, the doctorals will sit towards the front, the masters will sit behind them, and then the bachelor degree will sit behind them. So while they're not alphabetical, they can sit with their friends or, their classmates within their colleges, and Tyler had mentioned the card that they'll have, and that allows us to know who's who essentially as they're coming up and proceeding across the stage to get their names read individually.
All right, Abby, you anticipated the next question that had been asked, which is everyone's name going to be announced? So the answer to that is yes.
Every single person, yes.
All right, got a question that said, my son's ordered his cap and gown at grad salute, but says he doesn't know when he gets it. Any ideas?
So if your graduate has placed their order at grad salute, I would just double check with them, because they can at grad salute, they can actually pick up their cap and gown that day. So I would just double check with them to make sure how they placed the order, whether it was in person or online. If there is any issue with delivery or mail time, your safest bet is to go to the UK bookstore, have your graduate go to the UK bookstore ASAP. I'll just be frank, we're really close to commencement now, and it's in May. Everybody's ordering their cap and gown. So if you place your order online at this point, you risk it not making it in time before commencement. So I would just suggest if you verify that they did place an order online rather than in person, I would reach out directly to the UK bookstore or Oak Hall, who is the vendor. They should have gotten a receipt or some sort of email back once their order was placed. But at the end of the day, we want to just make sure that the graduates have their regalia prior to commencement, because we do ask, and this is something that we should mention, is that we do ask them to come ready to go with their cap and gown on when they walk into Rep Arena, so that we can get them quickly through check-in and to their seats.
All right, so lots of good questions coming in. I'm trying to keep them all in order. All right, so one says, I submitted the form online for the grad pictures. Does my graduate also need to scan the QR code the day of graduation?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah,
I want to
so
make sure.
a family member saying that they submitted the form online for grad pictures. I'm assuming you know what the form is, because I don't. Does my graduate also need to scan the QR code the day of graduation? So I assume this is for ProPics.
Yeah, I would go ahead and have them scan it. We'll encourage them to. It's on the back of their card. ProPics will encourage them to. So they'll have a lot of people contacting them day of to scan the QR code. But at the end of the day, not to worry if everybody forgets to do everything, they can still go to University of Kentucky Photos and universityofkentuckyphotos.com and type in their graduates information and be able to pull the photos right away.
One of the things that I'm thinking of, and this is on my mind because my nephew is graduating this year, so we're very excited. I'm excited every year that I'm at commencement, of course, and every semester, but particularly excited because I'm not only a member of the commencement committee this year, but also an aunt. But we were doing his grad photos or his senior photos yesterday, and he had attempted to steam his gown, but I think it's going to need another attempt before May. So just a little nudge, encourage your student to steam or iron their gown. I don't know if you all have any tips on the best way to get it done. He was like, I steamed it. And I said, yeah, I could still see exactly how it was folded in that package.
Yeah, sometimes the material is a little tricky, but I would just say follow the instructions on the tag, because I have definitely ironed stuff before that probably shouldn't have been ironed, or I had it too hot and I regretted it instantly.
Yeah, some of you may be thinking like, I'm gonna take charge of being the one to iron or steam that gown. All right, another question that just came in. Can we bring flowers into RUP for our grads? There's nothing specific to flowers on the RUP FAQ page.
Yes, you can. There's also a vendor that will be in the concourse there that will have a limited supply of flowers available too, if you'd like to purchase those there.
All right, so questions are slowing down. I'm trying to see. Okay, I think I've got a Post-it note that had all sorts of things that, again, as a longtime member of the commencement committee, I wanted to make sure that we covered, and I think we've covered all mine. So I want to see if you all have any final tips or insights for folks before we wrap things up.
I would just say that this is a very exciting time of year, but it's also a very busy time of year. We are, as students, we are wrapping up any sort of projects, our capstones, our thesis, our dissertations, moving into finals week, and then boom, commencement. So my ask is, and we know that graduates have a lot of questions at the same time, probably panicking, maybe parents pressuring them to get information. Be patient with us. I try to get back to emails every single day. But just be patient. If you want to contact us, our information is on the website. The best thing to do is go to the commencement website to look for your question. I have almost everything you can think of. And if you think of something that I didn't think of, let me know. The best way, though, to contact me is through email. I have a lot more access to my email, and I personally like to keep a record of all of my communication so that I can reference it back. If I'm trying to follow up on a situation, I can reference back to an email. So the best way to contact me and get a quick response from me is through email. And then if your graduates have questions about the day of, just encourage them to be patient. We'll send a know before you go email, and actually that's what we call it, a know before you go email, about 2 weeks prior to commencement, and we're almost there. And then I'll send a final reminder, know before you go, with that same information so that graduates know exactly what to expect.
All right, well, another question just came in asking, and we haven't covered this yet, so I'm glad it did. Asking if guests' families typically get up and leave after their student's name is called.
It depends. A lot of them do. Some of them choose to stay to the end and watch the rest of the ceremony conclusion. So yes, some do, and some choose to stay. So.
Yeah, and I've seen in the last few years, sometimes folks have had concerns about that, and it really has gone well. You know, I think they've been concerned they wouldn't be able to see their student when it's their turn, but this format has been in place for a few years and has gone well and has gotten good feedback from the graduates and families.
Absolutely.
All right, well, on the screen, you'll see both the link to the commencement website, the email that Tyler referenced. And so as additional questions come up, really encourage you to go ahead and reach out, and we'll make sure you get the information you need. You can always email parents@uky.edu if you need anything, and we can make sure that we connect you to the right folks on campus. But we hope that this was helpful for you today. We know you're excited to celebrate your graduate and all that they've accomplished. It's truly an achievement for the whole family, even if the families weren't the ones taking the exams and all of that, but you've been an important part of their support system. And so hope you enjoy every bit of this celebration with them. Abby and Tyler, thanks so much for taking the time to walk everybody through this. And I'm excited for our upcoming commencement ceremonies.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here and talk with you about this exciting day. We're very excited for all the graduates. So.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you.
everyone have a great rest of your day. Go Cats.